Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Ad Club's Ask the Experts virtual series brought to you by the Young Professionals Committee. My name is Estie Wassner. I'm an art director at Barker NYC, and I will be interviewing advertising gurus Lisa Topol and Derek Barnes, co-chief creative officers at DDB New York. Welcome, Lisa and Derek.
Hey, Estie.
Yeah, we're on. Hi.
Welcome.
How are you?
We're gurus. I've been called a guru before. This is
I know, it's pretty cool.
This is your official introduction.
Love it.
And there we go. It didn't take long.
There's
And
also
Plop,
a
my
dog
dog.
with that. I forgot to if you could introduce the dogs.
Oh, there's many of them, and I'm probably gonna have to jump for 3 seconds to give him a treat. This is Plop, and this is part of the COVID fun. Plop likes to be a part of every single meeting.
It's awesome. I'm saying dogs add a lot of fun to the meeting, so I'm happy to have as many dogs as possible. I've got some Brooklyn background noise. It's all.
I'm gonna go give him a treat. Hold on.
This is
No
why
worries.
there's CEOs at DDB.
What?
We can trade off when dogs jump into the mix.
Yeah, dogs, babies, whoever. Like people come through. This is part of I guess the new work life. I'm sure people are tuning in from different places and yay. Okay.
You might see a few of them now. They might all just sort of.
Well, we're starting us off with a very easy question. I like to throw in like just an easy kickoff question. The first one was really simple. What did you have for breakfast today? Did you? Did you? I don't want to assume.
You go first, Derek. I'll go.
Well, it is a simple question. I was so excited because I had a little bit of a tip off that was coming. And it's only because I've been trying to recruit my family to sample this oatmeal that I make. Because I don't really like breakfast food, but I started making oatmeal, but I make it with like cayenne pepper and sort of Cajun seasonings and this weird like health food briny soy sauce. So it almost tastes like crawfish etouffee or something that you're eating. So I had a big bowl of that this morning. And if anyone wants the recipe, I'm happy to send it out because a lot of people are missing out on this.
Did they like it?
They won't eat it. They see me making it. I've tried, but they will not eat it. So they're like,
impressive.
I know.
I'm sort of the total opposite. I've been trying or pretending to do one of those fasts where you don't eat lunch and then you eat in the afternoon, and it lasted about a week. So what I've been eating, and I've been eating basically the same thing every day since March, is I eat matzah, which
it's not even Passover.
No, I know, but the thing was this. I realized very, very early on in March when it was coming up on Passover, I stocked up on matzah because it's like the original emergency go bag food. So like the Jews had it down. They understood coronavirus because it doesn't go bad, can't get moldy. You can hold on to it for a long time. So I bought boxes of matzah and I love it. And so I eat it for breakfast, sometimes with a little bit of peanut butter, sometimes with a little butter on it. And it is delightful. And yeah, it's like biblically cool at the same time. So matzah is my breakfast.
Cool. I like it. Okay, we got choices here. We got oatmeal. We got matzah. Awesome. Okay, next question. How did you acclimate to the ongoing COVID crisis that we've all obviously been talking about? And what's it been like managing large teams remotely? Any wins and fails that you could share from your experiences so far?
Yeah. All right. I'll start, and then part of the fail you sort of just saw, which is, and it's a win and it's a fail. It's hard, you've got your life around you and you've got to sort of find a way to accommodate it. And sometimes it's not easy. So for me, I have a lot of dogs around me and they don't care about your big client call. They don't give a damn, right? So I have to, sometimes they're quiet, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they eat a lot of dog treats to shut them up. But it's also, to me, becomes something really interesting, which is I think Derek and I have always been sort of believers in, especially with creativity, we don't care where you work and what inspires you to work or what's the best place to work. I think a lot of offices, I don't particularly believe in the fiction of open office spaces because I think what happens is teams can't find quiet and they can't find a place to work. And that's really kind of really been obvious now, right? Now people have to figure out different ways to work. And so there's been a productivity increase with a lot of people because now they have a little bit more quiet time and they actually are working in their bathroom or they are working from home, the places where we always said you can work there if you want to work there. So I think that's actually been a good thing about it is learning to respect where people want to work too. And for me, it's dogs. For some people, it's kids. Maybe it's a single mom. There's a lot of challenges that go into this. And I think it has hopefully taught the industry a little bit more sympathy and a little bit more empathy that we have to respect people's lives, their boundaries, their time. And I think this has forced us to do it. And my hope is that that does not change. And we certainly don't intend it to change when we go back to normal. So meaning if you've got life, and if you learn how to work around that, or we can help you work around that, we should do that. Because I think ultimately it makes people more productive and happier people are more creative. So I actually think there's a good, weird silver lining in all of this.
Yeah, I think I would just add, I mean, in terms of the watch outs or the part that's maybe tougher to acclimate is around culture. You know, that's been hard. I'm sure it's hard for everybody out there at their own agencies, you know, to have that sense of a culture that you belong to and people that you get to work with and see every day. So, you know, we've tried to simulate some of that with a lot of town hall Zoom sessions. You know, we've done dumb game night or happy hour Zooms, just things that are meetings, but it's really just to see one another. We're kind of due for another one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then well, the other piece that I think has helped everyone's psyche, if you sort of focus on that element of it, is, you know, to Lisa's point, you know, we didn't really have the luxury to like wallow too much. Our clients, just given, we're lucky to have some really COVID-proof clients. And, you know, the work didn't stop, but then in a way that just gave everyone something to focus on. And, you know, we had one of the things that we've loved, you know, above a lot of other campaigns this year is, you know, right out of COVID, we did a thing with cotton where we had people filming themselves on phones and submitting it. And it turned out to be this amazing cathartic exercise. It was right when it started, but people, you know, had something to do. And it was so fun to see the work come back and cut it together. So, you know, that's one example. Kroger, another one of our big clients. If you have a grocery store client right now, obviously they're
pretty good client to have, yeah, and they're great.
So, you know, to some extent, we've poured ourselves in the work, and that's really, you know, what's occupied us and brought us together. And it has been a good sort of coping mechanism, but it is a watch out for us. And to Lisa's point, it is a good reminder people have lives, and being able to see that in the background. You know, I think we've all got to know each other even better through this in some way. So I think those have been the ways we've acclimated and coped.
I think I was just going to add that I think it was a fail that I think we're starting to correct, but haven't completely corrected yet. Is at the same time the work-life balance gets really weird, because there starts to be this thing like you wake up and you're at work and then it's like, well, when does the day end and when does it begin? And I think it's been harder to set some of those boundaries. And so, you know, we started to install certain things, like we're trying to start all of our meetings at the quarter after the hour, just so people get a mental break. Because, you know, when you're in an office, you'll be like, oh, give me 10 minutes. I'm just going to run out and get a coffee and then we'll start the meeting. But when everything is a scheduled, you know, Zoom meeting, that doesn't happen. So you feel like you have no breaks at all. And so we're trying to implement that. We're trying to implement proper lunch breaks. It doesn't always work, but we're doing our best to do that. And we've learned that some people, you know, people have a lot more backaches is another thing that I think is a fail. So like we're working on that too. I think we need to make sure that everyone has comfortable places to work and to sit. And I think this is probably something a lot of agencies are facing. We have to, I think, really figure out how to help people be as comfortable as they can at home to do the work that they want and need to do. So, yeah.
All great points. Thank you. And super relatable. Well, can you recall an aha moment at the very beginning of your career when you felt like advertising was your calling?
Yeah, I have a weird one, I think, where I realized I kind of liked it. And And I feel like it's a good one for juniors to think about too, which is one of the first assignments I got. It was for this magazine, Brill's Content, which I don't think exists anymore, probably because I'm not working on it. But and my exciting job was to make and it was a magazine, so that's how old I am. Like, it was an actual physical magazine, and my job was to make subscription cards for it. And you're like, wow, that is so exciting. But it was like my first assignment, and I was like,
it probably was. It was pretty.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, well, screw that. I am going to make the best subscription cards ever. And I ended up making super fun subscription cards that even picked up awards, and they were subscription cards. But I was like, if that's my job, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to make them fun and funny and cool. And they're not just going to say, you know, sign up here and check this box for $11.99. And I think it made me sort of realize that any assignment could be a creative assignment, and any assignment can be done really, really well. And so to not just necessarily dismiss things. And it made me like it because it felt like a weird little silly challenge too, that I actually felt satisfied with when I was done. Like, wow, I managed to make that pointless sort of thing pretty cool and pretty fun. And so that motivated me going forward with other work. And obviously, as the assignments got bigger, that same mentality served me pretty well.
Yeah, I share a lot of that sense of, the creative draw was enough to sort of like, I knew earlier on I wanted to do something creative. I wanted to do something in writing or screenwriting or something the world was going to see. And in my first job as a junior copywriter, if I had to boil it to one aha moment, I was driving around and a horrible, it's probably a 15-second radio spot for a fair war for US Air came on that I wrote. And it was probably the reaction the Beatles had when they heard their song on the radio for the first time. So, that sense of so much of what we do is theory. So much of what we do is on paper, and you present it, and it likely dies. But when it navigates all those points and gets out there in the world, that was an aha about, like, if I can just find a way to get my stuff through the system. It's so rewarding to see it out there and know people are seeing it. That was one that I remember.
Yeah, it's like the first time you do something, and then even when it's bad, but your mother sees it, and you get the, Lisa, did you do that? You're so talented. I love you, Ed. And you're thinking it's terrible, but you realize, like, your mom is proud of you, or that they're seeing things that you did, and it's a big deal.
It's a really big deal. No, but I love that. And I think all of us, I know for me also, quite recently, I'm saying when I was starting out, like, the little things that you get, you can make it exciting. It is, with the energy that you put into something is what it can help it really be something special. So it's cool to have that spark. Okay, so next question. What would you say is your great motivator? And I kind of borrowed that phrase from Tanisha Warner, who also did an interview, but I think she talks about it a lot. And it's kind of that thing that propels your great work. And what is that thing for you, and has it changed over the years? Because for everyone, I feel like it's a little bit different.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Sure. Yeah, it is 100% changed for me, and I think it started out probably more selfish, and it started out just being like, I just want to do cool things, and I want to satisfy my own sort of urge to write and to be funny or to be cool, and that's good. It motivated me to be really creative. And I have a picture of it. I know you can't, I don't think I could show it, but I have a picture of my grandmother actually on a wall next to me. And she was a wedding and bar mitzvah entertainer, hence kind of the inspiration for a glitter curtain. And she, that's what she did. She would write really funny songs, and she would make people's occasions really special, and they used to make me laugh when we would do it on the, write songs with her on the beach. And so I think I always felt like I want to be like that, and that was some of my motivation. It has changed a lot since then, and some of it is I feel more responsibility now as we sort of have become more, more senior in our jobs. I now feel a responsibility also to who we hire and how we hire, and that's probably more relevant than ever right now. And for me, certainly in particular, having been the only woman in the room, I can't count how many times, you know, my first jobs, it would be me and, you know, you could be with 30 guys, you know, going through an IBM call or something like that. And sort of thinking, I'm not going to let that happen. And I'm going to get higher and higher. And when I do, I'm going to make sure that I bring in more women. I'm going to make sure that I give opportunities. And it has been a big goal for me and our agency. And I think we're like more women than men in our agency, which is super rare. And not by any sort of we need to hire women. It's now become there's such great women creatives out there that's what we choose to hire. And that's really nice. And, you know, now we're dealing with I think the same thing in terms of diversity, in terms of finding Black talent as well. And I feel like I've certainly neglected that. And to me, that's a big goal now, is to create diversity in advertising, because it is our job to influence and reflect culture, even in the silly things that we do. Who you put in the commercial, how you portray people in the commercial does in fact change perception out there. And so that is more of a responsibility to me now than I think it was years and years ago, where I just didn't really think about it. It was just more about what cool thing can I do? And now it's about affecting culture, both entertainment wise and doing the most fun work, but also affecting what culture looks like and how it acts and how companies employ. So it's just become bigger to me, and those all motivate me.
Incredible.
Yeah, I would agree with Lisa. I mean, you know, when you're young and just starting out, it is all selfish. My first motivation in my career was not wanting Dan Wyden to fire me. Just trying to avoid
great motivation, though.
Yeah, but you know, again, over time, the goals get bigger, the motivation gets bigger. Everything Lisa said, you know, is such so rings so true to how we're living now, and along with you know, as where we are at DDB, I think, you know, the collaborative part, we're a partnership largely because we love the collaborative process of creativity, but the motivation of seeing our people produce some of the best work of their lives. And really shining the DDB mantle and you know, putting our agency sort of in the same short list as some of, you know, the places I think we'd all point at and say they're doing the best work in the world. That's a huge motivation. And you know, as the world changes and advertising agencies shrink, grow, change, morph, you know, finding a way to create a DDB for the future that you know, continues to provide all the opportunities people want creatively to express themselves and solutions that clients want. You know, it takes us into new technologies. It takes us into new creative forms of expression, and mastering those, or trying to master those, is all its own motivation as well.
Yeah, and that's Derek, you just brought up also just sort of you know, seeing other teams do well. And that certainly becomes a big part of it too, because Derek and I think will never not be part of the creative process itself, but it's so nice to do it with teams, and especially when young teams come up with a great idea. And I know some work that we just did during COVID on Content, we had some young teams that just did some incredible work on it. And that's so nice to see. And that's motivating as well, is when you see success.
Yeah. And that actually leads very well into the next question. I guess, as creative leaders, what would you say is the most important quality, like the most important qualities and skills for a great storyteller, and how can junior employees lean in to help their team tell those wonderful stories?
Want to take that, Derek?
Sure, I'll take a stab at that.
The long one, it's a juicy one. Go for it.
Well, you know, storytelling, it's one of those words that we use because they house a lot, that we throw around a lot in the industry. So it means lots of different things, and it can take lots of different shapes. But I would say, in terms of young people in particular, and how they can be better storytellers, it's a cliche at this point, but simplicity really is the thing. You know, no matter what you're doing, no matter how long, if it's a big 60-second Super Bowl spot, or it's, you know, we want to do this partnership on, you know, this social media platform, or they want an umbrella thought that can stretch, it still ultimately has to be really simple. And you know, starting with that simple insight, that simple message, that simple truth that you're going to create a story around, should really be the goal. And you should always be able, you know, to sort of express that insight, that story in 2 or 3 words.
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, focus on simplicity. And then, you know, for young people, especially as technology changes, the storytelling media changes, bringing yourself, your insights, your authenticity to that, your understanding of it, you know, that honesty, I think, and relevance to the consumer that you're trying to reach, you know, that can very easily get lost in the shuffle, especially when things get more complicated. So I think looking for how is this story relevant to my audience? Why do they want to hear it? And how can I best tell it so it'll land with them, would be something else I would suggest.
Yeah, I think the other things I would add are, one is, and this is through your career, resiliency, have it, because again, that's one of those things I think, especially when you're younger, and I feel like much better at it now. It's so easy to get discouraged and angry or upset when something doesn't sell or when something isn't liked. And it happens constantly. It happens all the time. And sometimes you actually find that, I know we both did it, you get so stubborn about something you think is the greatest, and maybe for the right or wrong reasons it changed, and you actually do end up coming up with something better. Yeah. Sometimes you don't, sometimes you end up with crap, and you're always pissed that that thing that was great never happened. But in either case, if you let it eat at you, you sort of can't survive in this. Like, you have to know that it's not sort of a deep personal affront when something that you did doesn't get sold or doesn't go through, and you've got to sort of learn how to move to the next step and progress and continue to try and make the work better every time something is thrown in your way. And sometimes that's tiring, but I think it's super important. And the other one, and I think we're a good example of it, is find the people that you like, find the people that you trust, and stick with them. Whether that means who you work for, like who your bosses are, or who your partner is. You know, this is the mushy or the sappy part, right? But it's been such a pleasure for me and such an honor to be able to work with Derek, and it makes me better, because I know it's somebody that I can trust, and someone that I rely on, and someone who will completely tell me when what I just wrote is a piece of crap. And so knowing that is really good.
Yeah,
I'm sure he said it rarely.
It's reciprocal. That's why she's saying that.
Yeah, no, but it's great. I agree with you, and I think, right, so those are good though. Simplicity, resiliency, and relationships. Basically. Yeah. Really cool. Okay, so next question. What do you find entertaining or inspiring today? That's hard.
I laugh every day at how I find almost anything entertaining right now. Because now I have no eating skills or exercising skills anymore. It is horrible. And so I've never liked jelly beans, and suddenly I'm obsessed with, I don't know why, I'm obsessed with jelly beans and blow pops. And now it's like a grab bag, and I put my hand into the blow pop bag, and if I get the cherry flavored one, I'm so excited, and I find that process really entertaining. That's how low we've gone. I mean, I literally find the dumbest everyday things to be highly entertaining to me. I still find my dogs entertaining, and watching them be stupid and watching them play, and I teach them tricks, and when they learn them, I find it pretty entertaining. And I've also, I think because it's like comfort food, I am obsessed with the shows that I grew up with. So I record every episode of Heart to Heart, and probably half the people on this have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, but I desperately wanted to be Jennifer Hart, one of the characters I really wanted to be growing up. And so I record episodes of Heart to Heart, and as soon as this opening sequence comes on with this private plane that takes off, I'm like, oh yeah, Heart to Heart. And I get really excited, and I'm riveted by the dumbest episodes that I've seen 500 times, but I find it very entertaining.
It's a laugh. That's awesome. I like it. How about you?
How many, like just the spike on Google of Heart to Heart that just happened. I would love to be able to come. They're gonna, what the hell? Yeah, I think, like everyone, you know, if you talk about what entertains you, right, especially right now, we just need a laugh. We just need things that are silly. So You know, I think whether it's dumb things on TikTok that my kids show me, or like I am the biggest Sarah Cooper fan on her impersonation on Twitter. Like those are fantastic. I think, you know, counterintuitively, I was a podcast listener prior to this, and I had a commute that made that sort of structured. But I really have, you know, as now life outside Zoom has been reduced to like long walks. You know, I love the long form rambling nature of podcasts, and you know, sort of just sample more as opposed to just kind of mainlining the same five. I've just started sampling different ones. And then I think at the same time, you know, Netflix.
Yeah.
Netflix is always a little bit like, well, you know, you'd watch the big ones, you'd watch, you know, Game of Thrones, or you'd watch whatever the streaming stuff is, but you know, being captive at night and wondering, all right, well, what should we've kind of seen everything. That I really stumbled across some really well produced. I mean, you know, cinema has sort of dried up, and now the new movie theater is kind of these streaming platforms and long form episodic stuff. And you know, once you get over the disappointment of not having a story told in 2 hours, it's I find more and more streaming stuff to be really interesting, well shot, innovative stories. So.
Yeah, but I'm giving Sarah Cooper gets a shout out for me too. It is sometimes the only way to hear some horrible speeches that are out there right now. So that is very nice. And
makes it more digestible for sure. And shout out to TikTok. You were saying, I never thought I'd be this millennial who gets on TikTok, but there's something about it. It is very addictive, and it's kind of in that same vertical of like Netflix, where it's not really like social media. It's kind of this super digestible entertainment that just feels really easy and fun, and it works. Like people are obsessed with it.
And I it's of all ages now too. And one of my best friends, almost any topic I talk to her about, within 20 minutes, I will have a TikTok video from her giving me some advice on that topic or entertaining me about that topic. It's very funny.
Advice and entertainment, that's where it's at. I like it. Okay, I think I'm going to ask one last question and then we'll open it up for Q&A. But what is the best career advice you've ever received?
For me, I would say, you know, to always keep an eye on your book. You know, keep making sure your work and your portfolio is evolving. I would say, especially early on, to chase opportunity above all else. Like, you know, don't take a job if you can avoid it. Don't take a job that's maybe more money, but you know, with that money, it becomes a little bit of a trap. You know, especially in the early stages, use that nimble period of your life to really chase down opportunity. Try and seize every one. I go back to that resiliency point. You know, sometimes it's not about who's done it the most or has the most experience or is necessarily the most brilliant in 5 minutes. It can be the last person with an idea. And as long as you're willing to jump into every pitch or every, you know, opportunity that you can elbow your way into creatively, that's how you kind of keep growing your work and how you convert more from just, well, we submitted some ideas to I'm out there producing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with all that. And, you know, creatively, I think we've talked about some of it. I think tenacity is super important. I think you talked about it, Derek, being true to yourself is really important. And that goes into your book too. You know, we've been looking at some books lately, and the things that are most exciting to us so often is not the advertising work. It's the extracurricular work. It's the fun, interesting things that people do, whether it's funny writing or it's painting or whatever it is that people do that can tell you so much more about a person than even the advertising can. And so that's career advice that I've always believed in and taken to heart. When you have passions and there's things you love to do, even if they're not advertising per se, go do them, because that will show through. Yeah, that'll show through in everything you do. And another piece of advice that's not really creative, but has been super important for me, which is fight for yourself. Always fight for yourself. And I think sometimes we forget to do that, and we hope that opportunity will be handed to us. And so often, whether, you know, it's not even necessarily not well-meaning, but sometimes it doesn't happen unless you make things happen. And so I have, and again, I would say this is especially for women when it comes to raises, you know, things like that and promotions. If you deserve it, you deserve it, and you should fight for it, and you should push until you get it. And so I just don't let those things stop you. I think you have to be persistent and tenacious in that way too, for your own career, and advocate for yourself and advocate for what you need. And you need to start learning that early on.
Yeah, those are really good ones. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think we're open for questions. So first one that's in. Okay, what is the biggest risk you've ever taken in your careers? Did it pay off, or what did you learn from it?
Risk. Now I'm trying to think of like the biggest risk. Yeah, well, I know I can think of one that came to my head pretty quickly. And this was early in my career, and actually speaks to what I just spoke about. And so I won't I'm not naming names of agencies, and it's actually not a good thing or a bad thing. But I had come up with a campaign with my partner, and we knew early in our career that it was going to be a really good campaign. In fact, maybe a career-making campaign. And we shot everything, we've done all the work, and we knew that it's not the way edit processes work now. It's like where editors will be like, I need a week and a half to be by myself, and then we'll get back to you. Like, the process is so much faster now. But we knew what the edit process was, and that there was going to be time before we had to actually go in ourselves and look at the edit. And I had weirdly won a trip to a tennis camp, and I'm like really into tennis. And I said to my boss, I was like, hey, so I know we have this little break. I'm going to go take that tennis camp free trip that I won, and I make no money. So this is incredible, and I want to go. And I got told, are you sure you want to do that? Do you really what if we need to edit sooner? And what if it starts sooner? And if you really cared about this, you would stay? And I said, that's just not true. And this was my boss, and I was a pipsqueak. And I said, that's not true. And I was like, this work will be here in the week when I get back. And I was like, and you asking me to stay is asking me not to be my full self and not to understand the balance between work and life. And I don't want to do that this soon in my career. I believe that I can do both of these things. I'm going to go, and when I come back, it's going to be here, and we're going to edit it, and it's going to work great. And he's like, if you want to take that risk, but you need to learn early in your career that you've got to be in it. And I was like, no, I was like, if I knew it was happening tomorrow, that would be different. And I would in fact stay, and I would have done it. But I knew that it was just, there was this weird mentality of sort of just like, you have to live and die by it. And I was like, I don't think so. And I went, and I was terrified. I was terrified that I went on this 4-day stupid tennis camp trip. And when I came back, they weren't even ready for us to edit yet. And I will say that boss said to me, he's like, well, I'm really glad you went. That was the right move, and I'm glad you stood up for yourself. And it was one of those little things where I was sort of like, yeah, I'm glad I did too. And it was a risk, because I almost didn't know. I'm like, are you going to fire me for this? Like, what's going to happen? And nothing is what happened. What happened is I enjoyed a few days off, and then I got to edit spots that won me my first Cannes Lions. And so I don't know. I don't know if that's exactly the question there. And I'm not, I'm not advocating telling everyone to go F off, when you have things to do, but it is again, trusting yourself and trusting the process, and being willing and able to talk to those people that are around you, to tell them what's going on, what your needs are, what your life is, and showing that doesn't mean you don't super care about these other things, because I really cared about it, but you can do both.
Yeah, I would say for me, it was my very first job. There was a great, creative director that ran the office, big name in the industry. He wound up leaving, maybe, I don't know, 6 months into me starting there. And suddenly there was a mass exodus, and everyone was running for the doors. And I had no idea what to do. I knew ultimately I wanted to work at some place like Wieden & Kennedy. And while they're, in trying to either stay put or find another job, there were a lot easier options than moving to Portland, Oregon, and crossing my fingers that it would work out. But packing the car and driving across the country on half a plan to try and get in there was probably the biggest.
That's risky.
Yeah.
It's risky. gutsy, but I guess, right, without making these kinds of decisions, nothing changes. Sometimes you really have to do what you want to do or say what you want to say, and that's how you forge a path, and that's how you stay true to yourself. So yeah. I like those. Okay, next question in. Why do you think brands are possibly running non-COVID or CDC guidelines that are either not compliant or compliant in some content now?
So we say again, why don't they want?
Yeah, well, I guess why are some brands still running non-CDC compliant content? I don't know.
Oh, meaning like content for people.
Like, why are they not more careful, I guess, about following those guidelines in all of their content?
Yeah, I guess there's a few answers, because I'm trying to figure out if it's the creative itself that doesn't show COVID compliance, or if it's non-COVID compliance in terms of getting the work done. And those are I guess two different things to me.
Right.
So,
I feel like it's A, but you could
A, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it depends. You know, I think part of it's a really weird thing, because this goes back to reflecting what's out there. You know, part of it I would say is you're sort of advertising as much as it reflects reality. It's also, we know it's filmed, we know we know that there's fantasy involved in it too. And so I think it's trying to find that fine line between allowing people to sort of enjoy life as you would like it to be and as it was. And so maybe that's why some clients don't want that. We oddly haven't had that experience actually. And we're also very lucky that our, you know, Kroger, which is one of our biggest clients that we love, it happens to be an animated campaign. And so it was actually a discussion, which is, do animated characters wear masks or don't they wear masks? And we decided animated characters don't, because they're animated and everyone knows they're not sort of real. But we did, when we cut to live footage, we are COVID compliant, and we decided that we should be. And, you know, I suppose if I had my druthers on everything, I do like that. Like, I feel like there's a responsibility to showing that I think is really good. I mean, I think another thing is you never necessarily know when things are airing, could be part of the reason why clients aren't COVID compliant. But I would say that if the creative that you're doing allows you to be COVID compliant, you should be COVID compliant. It just depends on what that means. Like, I guess another weird way around it is I wouldn't want to shoot something right now that had a lot of people near each other doing something. So I would say if you told me that that's what you wanted, we wouldn't do it. So we would either have to make sure that there was true social distancing or that people wore masks, but you do have some responsibility to that. So I don't quite know if that answers the question, but that's kind of what I think. I don't know, Derek.
Good for me, Lisa. Yeah. No, I mean, I think maybe between the two evils, some brands are like, they've got work in the hopper. They can't shoot new stuff because, you know, LA has been shut down, and maybe there's feeling like, well, we'll have to rotate in old things from before that again don't really reflect the new normal in terms of masks and such.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna add, I think some of it's a financial consideration. They just have the content going, and it's really hard to sometimes come up with new, if it's not in the budget, it's really hard to come up with new stuff suddenly. But yeah, I feel like that answers that. I think we can make this the last question. But what advice would you give to recent graduates and junior creatives trying to get hired right now? And how does a resume break through all the noise when, let's say, you're getting so many?
I feel like I've gone first.
Tell us.
The first thing I would say is every year, every graduating class, said it when I graduated, which is in the 1800s, and every year since, you know, people will always say it's a horrible time to try to get in the business. Don't let that discourage you. Like, I know the economy, you know, looks rocky, but talent is talent and tenacity is tenacity. And if you look for a place, you know, the only way out of this for agencies and for companies is to do better work. So they're going to be looking for you. They're going to want you. So don't be discouraged by, you know, the big headline that no one's hiring. And then in terms of resume, I do think, you know, it ties back a little bit, I think, to what Lisa was saying around, you know, what are the things that make you stand out that maybe have nothing to do with advertising? And especially if it's creative, what are those creative side gigs or just the passion projects or the weird thing you do that you think is too dumb to put on a resume?
It's not too dumb.
It's not. So I would include that. You know, you don't want to add stuff that doesn't really have a you know, bearing on the kind of work you want to do or who you are as a creative person. But you never know what idiosyncrasy is going to just click and spark a question. And you know, again, some of the most talented names I can think of in the business, when at least to the extent that I know their books, some of them showed up with no work. Some of them showed up with cartoon, you know, illustrations and little, you know, cartoon strips. So it's all fair game, and play to your strengths, be yourself, find what's interesting and true about you, and find a way to work that into your resume.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, I know we talked about it a little earlier, but we've even seen things where people have just had their really fun TikToks on their, in their book. It's like, here's something I've been doing. And not only does it let you, again, know like what a person's sort of creative mind is, but it tends to be that when you talk to people, there's there's a light in their eye. Hold on.
They were so quiet this whole time.
We almost made it.
I forgot the dogs were there.
Oh yeah, no, we almost made it. But it puts you know, you do, but you get a light in their eye, and they get excited talking about it. And so it's really fun to see that too, because it tends to bring out people's personalities, and especially right now when I think classes are harder, if anyone is going or not going. It's going to be harder to get things produced as a whole for I think young creatives right now, because productions are lower. So that stuff becomes even more important.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Okay. Do you think we can squeeze in one other quick question? I have another good one. One last one. Since you guys have done such cool stuff that goes beyond all the traditional campaigns, like the work on cotton with Rosie the Riveter, do you have any tips on how to sell that kind of stuff into clients and internally when it's something that's completely not traditional, like campaign architecture type? Yeah. How do you sell that?
Well, it's obviously sort of different for each and every client. And some client, you know, if you have clients that are already inclined to that, it's obviously much easier. For the clients that aren't, it is, and this, boy, it sort of goes back to the tenacity question again a little bit, which is, and maybe the better word is patience. And you can't just sort of be like, do this, it's good. You've got to earn the trust of the clients, that they know that you're not just doing it for yourself, and that you're doing it because it's going to be good for them. And I think once they have that trust in you, I can, you know, it's happening. You know, cotton's a good example of that with Rosie the Riveter. I don't think that was on the table, and it's just something that we found, and we said, listen, this is an incredible truth. This is such an authentic thing about you that's so of the moment. Let us show you. Let us explain to you how it works. And because we built trust with them before that, we were able to have that conversation. The same thing, we have another client that we're doing that with right now that I don't think we ever would have thought would be doing sort of non-traditional activation work. And that's what we just sold through to them because they understood that our goals are in fact the same as theirs. And so I think once that you understand that partnership is real, selling in some of that more non-traditional work that I think is really, it's really fun for creatives. It's great to flex different muscles and to engage with consumers in a different way. Once they understand, once your client understands that you're on the same page for it, you have to know that there might be a little bit afraid, but I think once you can reduce that, selling in that work becomes easier. And sometimes, again, it goes into, you might fail a few times and you just have to keep pushing it, but you do have to keep showing them, and you don't have to wait for them to ask for it because they probably won't. You have to go to them with it and say, this is something we want to do and here's why.
Yeah. Anything to add, Derek?
No, I think that
I nailed that one.
answer.
Awesome. Well, I think we're gonna wrap this up. So thank you both, Lisa and Derek, so much for your time and your wisdom and your awesomeness and your dogs and everything.
They all thank you very much.
Yes, and thank you to everyone, all our viewers, for listening. So you can stay tuned for more content from the young professionals at the Ad Club's virtual clubhouse. And everyone, have an awesome weekend. And thank you really for being here.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
And thanks for inviting us.